My goodness, guys. Okay, we just finished part one. Welcome to part one of two parts. I'm pretty sure. I think it's just going to be two parts. But welcome to our first ever part one of two parts of Skinwalker Ranch. And Micah just gave me a 10-second countdown to start talking, what I thought was highly entertaining. And that's why I was... I wanted to interrupt you when you were doing it to be like, why didn't we just start at 5 or 3? Like, what are we doing?
I don't know.
Alright, point being, welcome to this episode where we talk about Jack the Ripper. I'm just kidding. We definitely talked about Skinwalker Ranch. Shout out to Dan. I don't want to say your last name in case you don't want it said, but shout out to Dan or Daniel for the suggestion on this one. We had a couple other people also suggested it, but I know from day one you were pounding the table for this one. So here it is finally, and prepare to be disappointed. So this is all we got, man. It's the best we could do.
Man, you're
just kidding. Mike
say I talk crap
job.
about the show.
That's right. No, I'm just kidding. No, for real. On a real note, you did a fantastic job. Congratulations. Very nice work. And so yeah, I was gonna say who we're gonna have on next, but I'm not going to because we're still ironing out some details. So I don't want to give anything away in case the whole thing falls through. But our second episode is definitely going to be, or the episode after this, so episode 18, will definitely be about Skinwalker Ranch Part 2. And I'm excited to bring that to you. And I really hope you enjoy this episode. And as always, Micah, what should people do? Okay.
That's your ending, not the intro.
I thought you were going to say, what should people do, being like, Facebook, and,
Oh, okay. I thought you were doing the whole,
if you guys can't tell yet,
weird.
We're radio ready. I don't even, name a better duo. Name, I'll wait right now. So, Micah, where can people find
on Facebook at our...
Join that conversation.
Page. I was looking at that. We have a group, not a page. So
do I need to change that? Did I totally mess that up in the beginning? Because
you made a group.
Did I mess that up? Darn it! Maybe we can switch it over, or you know what?
We can add. We can make a page, and then we can add that page to the group.
Plus, we're gonna have the
but
other.
I think it's not gonna automatically transfer people over or whatever.
We also have that other thing. More details to come, but we have that other thing that maybe we make that for those people. Hey, you want to clear up your face? Jeez.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
For those of you that want to go watch this on YouTube, you can go watch Mike and I as we get blurry and our words fall behind our mouths. Or our mouths fall behind our words, however you want to put it. God, we need to stop knocking ourselves. Matter of fact, shout out to, oh, holy crap, I just forgot his name. Dang it, why would I do this to myself? Ray. All right, Ray, thank you for giving us a shout-out saying not to be so hard on ourselves. I appreciate that, brother. Thank you. And, yeah, so join the conversation, like Micah said. Enjoy this episode.
Facebook, Twitter, we don't really use. Harley, I think, still uses.
Yeah, but, I get on there. I actually, you know what? I actually throw some of our stuff on TikTok now. I actually do, like, the little clips that I make up. TikTok. Yeah. And it's if you're on TikTok, look up my name. It's it basically just spell that other fat guy with a beard, but the very beginning is just TAT, tat other fat guy with a beard, and you'll find me. And if you're for whatever reason listening and you're on TikTok, follow me on there, and we can get you located back over to our Facebook because that's where we're gonna get the most conversation. All right, enough of this. Mike, you think we should just start the episode with these guys?
Intro. Let's just get it started.
Okay. Let's get it going. All right. Blue balls. Let's go. Welcome to episode 17. We are finally doing it. We're going to talk about Skinwalker Ranch, and I feel super unprepared for this. How do you feel, Micah?
I don't know. I might be more prepared than you, but
Well, I just
probably
there's
not by
so
much.
there's so much that goes into this particular
Yeah.
case.
As far
I
as
guess you
me,
would say.
I have 10 years worth of history, and I'm only gonna really go over, I think, 4 of it in any type of detail. Most of it kind of happens in 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, and that is the interesting thing about this particular place in general. Now, first of all, would you admit? Do you think? Prior to the little bit of research we did this week, or I should say, at least on your end, do you feel like you had not heard about Skinwalker Ranch prior to this, right?
No.
Now, when I did ask those of you that have been following us or on our fan page, excuse me, our Facebook page, or when I said fan page, you'll notice that we put up a vote where you could like pick 4 different episodes we're going to do, which we're still going to cover all that stuff, Bigfoot and the Manhattan incident and some of that other stuff that'll be coming into play. But you picked this particular one. Do you think any part of the reason being just for the name Skinwalker Ranch?
No. If I'm being 100% honest,
I was really hoping.
if I'm being 100% honest, I kind of thought that this was like okay, so you had sent me some videos, and the video you had sent me was I thought it was had to do with like kind of like a Waco, Texas kind of thing.
Waco, Ruby Ridge.
So yeah. So I was kind of
screw the
expecting
government
it to
kind
be,
of video. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
and then when I
that.
actually got the when I actually got it, I was like, wow, this is not about the government.
This is not about the FBI. Interesting.
So yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, for those of you that are listening, whether this is your first time ever hearing about Skinwalker Ranch, or maybe you're much more educated on than us, welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight. I don't know if this is going to... I think we probably can squeeze this all into one episode. I'm pretty sure we'll be able to do it. But in case we can't, there may be 2 parts. But like Mike said, we're mainly going to be focusing on, the last, I'm going to say 3 decades. There's a lot more history to all of this. If we go back, you can track this thing all the way back. And I think it was on the History Channel. But this place, it takes place, or where it's located is in Utah. Excuse me. And supposedly... going all the way back to, was it the Navajo Indians, I think, that were in that area?
It said centuries, though. So
I know that's what I think is kind of interesting, because it says centuries. So the only thing I'm thinking when it says centuries is like, I mean, I guess, yeah, we've been in the United States for centuries, but there's not a lot on this. Like, there's not as much hard evidence. I feel like the farther and farther we go back, even though we can't totally disregard those cases, we are talking, when you're saying centuries, that could be 200 years. Like, that's completely, hearsay at this point in time, even if it is true. So we're mainly going to focus on, like, the last 3 decades. Not to totally discredit that, because you bring up a great point about this being a hot spot or talked about place for
I didn't
centuries.
bring it up. But, It is said that it is a hotspot for like paranormal activities, UFOs, that kind of stuff. And there was also a few other things that are involved, at least in the story that I am going to be talking about.
Yeah.
But my story starts in '94 and it ends in 2004. Apparently, 2004, it kind of like this property kind of like died off on activity.
Yeah, a little bit. And
I didn't see if there was anything reported after that, but according to what I was looking into, which was material that you sent to me.
Yeah.
Look at my pictures.
Look at this creepy
video. It pretty
video.
much kind of died off in like 2004.
Stop shaking the camera.
Yeah, you shake it all the time.
I do.
I tried to get him to fix it.
I have a boisterous laugh and a boisterous body, so
you just got a really tiny table.
Really, I do have a
working on.
It's like super wobbly. I don't know what's going on. I need to get a man's table. I need to carve some wood myself and put it in place. I need a concrete table that doesn't move. Oh my goodness. Okay, so yes, so just tiny bit of background history here. Going up to 1994, and we'll have Micah jump in. And like I said, whether you heard about this or you haven't heard about this, long story short, it's not actually called Skinwalker Ranch. I don't remember the exact name of the place off the top of my head, but basically it's been referred to as Skinwalker Ranch because if you go by the old folklore and the background history on it, the Native American Indians believed that the land was cursed. You could get into a lot of stuff on this, but basically because we kicked them off of it, we literally pushed them out. But even prior to that, there was on a particular spot on the property known as Skinwalker Ridge, they believed that this is where the Skinwalker walked, inhabited, or was about. Excuse me, and I'm not going to go into that too much because I don't know a lot about that history, but basically a Skinwalker was something or an entity that could possess one's body or take yours over and then live through you or do things. So again, in case I murdered that,
it says
I apologize.
That the name is taken from the Skinwalker of Navajo legend concerning vengeful shaman. So it's basically like haunted by Native Americans.
Correct.
Now, I know this is not the actual name, but it says it's also known as Sherman Ranch. Sherman is actually the name that that's the family that I'm going to be covering mostly.
Right.
I don't know.
Well,
I don't know what the actual name of the ranch is, to be honest.
Here's what I think, to me personally, that I think is kind of interesting, is that now on yours, did you notice the timeline for ownership? Not that it's a big deal, but like, what was your timeline? Like, it said 1984, right, for the Shermans, like Terry and Gwen Sherman.
Yeah, that's when they bought it.
Okay, that's what I was under the impression of. But then when I did a little other research, there are some out there that are showing that they'd owned this by like 1984, I think it was 1984 to 1982. I don't know what that's about, so in case anybody knows a little more about that, and again, this is not the end of the world. We're just talking about a couple years difference, and it's not really important in the entire part of the story, but just in case something is wrong here. And again, when we cover anything that is a fringe topic, you can get a plethora of information, and we've got to weed it out. And I just usually like giving you guys, here's what I got going on both sides, in case something's wrong, and don't hold us to it.
Well, my understanding is I don't recall the names of the individuals that owned it before the Shermans.
Now, that's what I wanted to hit on. That's the only reason I'm bringing up the date.
I don't remember, but I believe I was told, or I believe that what was said about it was that the land was unoccupied for 7 years prior to the Shermans moving in.
That is true.
And that the previous owners had abandoned it, and they had owned it for a good long time. But I don't remember like dates or what their name was.
Yeah, and that's where it gets weird, because if you like what you're bringing up the point on is that we don't really know the name, and that's where it gets a little weird. Now there's some out there
weird. That's where it gets weird.
Okay.
Well, you're gonna listen to a few things that I have to say tonight, and you tell me that's where it gets weird.
Well, okay, everybody, you're gonna need to put on your adventure panties tonight. I'll tell you that much. Or just never mind. I was gonna say your thongs, but I feel like panties was far enough. It covers everybody. Anyways, point being, prior to Terry and his wife Gwen possessing or purchasing the land, you are correct. There was a believed to be elderly couple. This is all I'm going to basically give about this. Is just what I know. So if it's wrong, I'm sorry. But there was an elderly couple who owned this, did not actually live on the property. They had hired hands to maintain the land, and they would maybe themselves go once, twice a year, but it sounded like once a year to like do small repairs or kind of check on things. It's one of this thing being a whole weird thing in and of itself. Mysteries of this whole place is that we don't, for whatever reason, have a ton of information until, like you're saying, 1994. There's not, like most people have, like, or most property has a very, like, this is who bought it. You had to purchase it, and we could track things that way because we at least know who and what. But with them, it seems like there's not a clear answer on who actually owned this. Another weird thing, and I don't know if you're going to get into this, so I don't want to ruin it in case you are, because if you are, I'll let you take over. But did you look over or hear about the contract that they had to sign to get this property? Okay, so I'll let you cover that. But before Micah gets started here, Terry and his wife, and their son and their daughter, both their family as a whole, extremely skilled ranchers. Like it's not. One person was saying that in the area, most cattlemen or most ranchers were okay if they take like a 5% hit on their profit that year. Like they would lose 5% of the cattle. They said that the Shermans were absolutely devastated if they were to take more than a 1% hit. So I mean, these guys were not just your average like, yeah, well, we lose the cattle, whatever. Like they were very dedicated, very skilled ranchers, and it had been in the family business for a long time, and they just happened upon this land, like you're saying, was unoccupied for what we're thinking roughly 7-8 years. We're not quite sure on that, and they get a lifetime and offer kind of deal. I don't know what was the exact number they purchased it for. Like $378,000.
I don't remember, but
it would break out to like $3 million today. But it was considered a steal. Like he was beyond thrilled. It said, like himself, for him and his wife to get started on this, they were unbelievably ecstatic. So that's where we're kind of at, and then I'm gonna let Micah take over from here a little bit, and I might jump in here and there or whatever. But basically, just picture this in your mind: husband and wife finally purchasing the dream.
They do have kids as well, though.
Yes, yep, their son and their daughter purchasing the the land of their dreams, as it were. What was it? 544?
It's like 512 or something like that.
Yeah, it's a lot of land. You know what I mean? This wasn't a little bit of like, hey, I got 100 acres. Like, a lot of land.
I mean, 100 acres for me, I'm more than happy with 100 acres.
Fair point.
500 acres might be a bit much. Point.
Yeah. So anyways, just keep that in mind as we're going in this story. You got a picture of them completely ecstatic. They're getting ready to start their full life's journey here. And then some maybe weird things happen along the way, and that's what we're gonna share with you guys tonight. I don't know what Micah, I don't know what your take is on this before we really dig into it, but like I'm just sharing the story. I mean, I don't know what are your thoughts before we start telling the story? Do you have?
Maybe you should wait till the end.
Okay, fair enough.
Maybe I'll interject some thoughts.
I'll say this: I don't normally crack a beer when we're sharing a story. This one made me crack a beer, so not that I needed many reasons to crack a beer.
Except the last time you also drank. You were telling the story.
That's right. I'm drinking myself a wicked. Well, I'm going to say what it is. It's a Wicked Grove. That's right. For just 6. Go ahead. Let's start the story.
Okay. So, as William said, the property was owned by, from my understanding, was owned by someone prior. And they basically kind of abruptly moved out about 7 to 8 years before the Shermans bought it. Terry Sherman was, as William said, a rancher. He was a cattle breeder, basically high-end cattle. And as William also mentioned, he did not like to lose cattle. It was very significant to him to lose a single a single cow or bull. It didn't matter. He did not like to lose his livestock, right? Not only because, that's financial burden there.
Loss.
But yeah, it's kind of, it puts a damper on your reputation as a rancher. So anyway, he was looking for a piece of property that he could expand his work with, and that's what he found with this ranch. Massive piece of property, got a really good deal on it. Like William said, they were super excited about it. And so they were moving in. First day is actually where the first story starts.
That's pretty
first
great.
Day as they're moving in.
First day.
So, yeah, first day. So as they're moving stuff, they're out there with a moving vehicle and that kind of stuff. As they're going in and out of the house. They're going in and out of the house. They noticed a lot of deadbolts and that kind of stuff on doors, and not just exterior
That's
doors.
true.
There were interior doors that had deadbolts on them.
It's that heavy duty one, right?
Yeah, deadbolt, exterior deadbolt. It's not something you would normally see in an interior door. Yeah. And in the contract, actually, real quick before we get any further, so when they bought it, the only thing that I know, and this is the only thing of significance that I added, if there is something else, feel free to interject it, was that they were not allowed to dig anywhere on the property without the previous owner's permission. Now, I think that is a little odd.
Yeah,
but especially given 500 plus acres, it seems.
Yeah, that was one of the stipulations. However, there was a little bit of research on that I'd heard in passing, which because I'll admit, the first thing I thought too when that was brought up, I'm like, what the French toast? Like, you're gonna tell me, all right, you can buy the property, but you want to put a fence post in, you better give me a call. Basically, I think what they're saying is like that contract exists or is relatively common, especially on big pieces of land, for the purpose of, say, somehow, like I was in an oil business or whatever, or somebody that knew that certain minerals or whatever existed in the land. I figured it out before I bought it from you. I could have like lowballed you, and then that would have come out. So, like, say that day one, he's moving in, machinery to start pumping oil from the ground. Like, they would have been like, what the French toast? So, like, in those instances, I guess that clause exists. But at the same time, it's like,
lose. What are you going to do?
Like, but, think about it. If you and I own 514 acres or 480 acres or whatever the number is, I probably haven't searched. I haven't looked in my own backyard to see if have you checked your backyard to see if you got oil, sir?
No. Anyway, okay, so if it's a common thing, maybe it's not weird. I just think it's weird.
It is weird, but I guess it's not.
Anyway, first day, they're moving crap in. They noticed all the deadbolts and that kind of stuff. They thought it was a little odd, but they moved past it. They saw what they described as a wolf as they were moving stuff in, and they had already got some cattle there. Which
they weren't playing around. They moved right
awesome.
in.
Yeah, like
he showed up with his prize bulls.
So as they're moving crap in, they see this what they described as a wolf, maybe a few hundred yards away.
Yeah,
and it was gradually,
which is common,
what was
right?
described as a.
See a wolf on the
property. During the day, maybe not. I don't know. I don't live in Utah. So.
Well, that's funny fact. Up until that very year, they had just started naturally transplanting wolves there. There were no natural roaming wolves at this time in Utah.
I wouldn't necessarily say that this was a natural wolf.
Well, yeah, we're going to talk about
so this wolf is doing what they just said was S-turns towards them. So I guess it was kind of like creeping towards them, and it turned back a little bit, and then creep towards them. And it was just kind of creeping towards them. And it got closer and closer and closer. And the closer it got, he realized, comparing it to like fence posts and that kind of stuff, that this was an abnormally large animal.
How abnormally large, Micah?
About 3 times the size of a normal wolf.
We're talking wolf here.
Massive wolf. Apparently, it got very, very close. And from my understanding, Terry was about 6 foot, and it said it came up to his shoulders, is where his head was. So it's probably like a 5 foot tall stand, like on all 4, 5 foot. Like that's a pretty significant animal.
Massive.
Yeah, that's pretty huge. So you can imagine the body frame that comes with that. It's probably a freaking huge animal. It's an animal I would not be outside with.
Right.
Anyway, they thought maybe it was a neighbor's dog or something, since it appeared to be friendly. It was not aggressive towards them. It didn't show any signs of aggression or anything like that. So
yeah, didn't Terry even say he like weirdly felt like almost not comforted, but like he didn't feel, like a certain animals you lock eyes and you can tell you're like, I don't know about that sucker.
They're sketchy.
But like he said,
it was
weird
basically like
effect.
It was like they didn't think that the it was a danger at all to them.
He was like, oh look, puppy.
He tried to pet apparently, it, didn't he? I can't remember if they actually pet it. I know they were very close.
I think
they were extremely close,
because it said at one point that he while supposedly close enough to pet this thing, he invited his family over. His wife said no thank you, and I think his dad was actually there too, helping them move. But I just thought that was weird, because me personally, whether he did or did not pet this thing, we're not, again, we're not 100% clear on the exact, what really took place, but that's something in this range of being comfortable petting. would you go up and pet like any wild animal at any point ever anyways?
That is like as tall as you are.
Period.
That could literally like
I don't know, I pet a
munch your
wild
head off in a
squirrel.
bite.
Not that there's many.
Yeah, for real. We had a,
But I'm just saying, squirrel.
at the park like last year that got a little close, and we scared it off because we didn't want it to bite one of the kids or something.
Right,
But, like,
because then you get
that's a tiny little squirrel, let alone an animal that's larger than you. Anyway, we can't dwell too much on this because we've got a lot to cover.
We do. Well, we can make it 2 parts. There's no rules here. We're
Okay. Well,
we'll see where it
I
goes.
still have
We'll
a
see where
lot
you
for
go.
part 1. So,
right, so he's petting this thing and he feels comfortable, or he's at least looking at it.
I believe he pet it, but I could be wrong about that.
Okay. And then what?
Anyway, the cattle that was in the fenced area, which is close by the homestead. Apparently, a calf stuck its head out of the fence, and
Stupid.
yeah. So this wolf creature immediately runs over and munches on this thing's head. It just grabs this calf by the head, neck area, and it won't let go. So the father Terry, he grabs a axe
Handle or something.
handle. Yeah, it was an axe handle, not even an
Where's
axe.
the axe? Where?
I don't know.
It's
But he takes
a wood.
an axe handle and he starts beating this thing, and it's not reacting at all.
Well, it's
So
5
he
foot
tells
tall,
someone,
so-
I don't know, his son or wife or whoever, to grab his pistol, which is a 357 Magnum, which
Like
is not
a
a
wood
it's
name.
not a small
Take that,
pistol.
Gilbert.
It's got some power behind it. And he decides to shoot it. So he shoots this thing, apparently in the abdomen area, and it doesn't react at all. There's no blood, there's no nothing. Like, it doesn't react. Doesn't even look at him, doesn't wince, nothing. So he shoots it again. Same result, nothing happens. And I believe, he shot it 3 times, and they had no effect.
For just a moment here, before we go any farther, can we just address that for just a second? Like, do you have any thoughts on this before I say anything? He just shot this thing, this man beast of a wolf, and there's 0 response? I mean,
It hasn't even looked at him, it hasn't flinched, it hasn't done anything.
very weird for a predator, because like if you normally shoot any predator, like say if you're actually hunting and you shoot a predator, like if you shoot something like a deer, generally speaking, it runs. The minute it gets hit, it starts running. Predators sometimes look for what hit them, right? Like they're trying to attack what just hurt them. Very interesting to me that he shoots this thing and it's just like
Yeah, it's interesting. It gets more interesting. So he realizes that
do
357 ain't enough. So again, he tells someone to go get his 30-06. So 30-06 is a pretty powerful rifle. It's not like upper echelon, but it's enough. And he shoots it twice with 30-06. And he shot it. I believe. I didn't actually write this portion down, but
I think when he
I believe
shoots
he
it,
shot
it
it,
did
and
let
it
go.
did actually decide to let go, or maybe it let go before
of
he
that
actually
third
shot it with the
shot,
rifle.
yeah.
And it just kind of like trotted off a little ways away, and it stood there and waited. And I believe he shot it with the rifle, and again, it didn't have a reaction to it. So he decided to shoot it again, and he saw a hunk of flesh fly off of this thing. So that's the first bit of effect that you actually hear about on this animal. And it runs off, and he decides that he can't have a predator like this on his property with the cattle, right? So
Yeah.
he goes and they chase this thing.
I do think that's crazy because we forgot to mention. I forgot he's like I don't think they gave his name, but he has a teenage son at this time. And him and his son basically, he's like, here's the 357. I got 30-06. Let's go. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like maybe I would do the same too, but I don't know.
I don't remember if they had dogs that they took with them
not at
or
this
not.
time. Not at this time.
But
like,
they did end up trying to track this thing down. And they're following its tracks and whatnot. And apparently they followed it for, I don't know, 150 yards, 200 yards, something like that. And it got out into like an open field area. And then like they couldn't see it, and the tracks just stopped. There was no more tracks in any direction. It was just like the animal ceased to exist, and there was nothing there. There was also no blood trail at all.
No, that's what I was gonna say.
Only,
would you even track this thing after you just shot it?
No.
You'd be like,
no. That
it...
day I would have been like, hey, we're giving your place back.
I'm just gonna call his son Billy because he doesn't have a name that I'm aware of. I'm gonna be like, Billy, here's the 357. Let's hunt this thing. Like, he just starts running after this animal. Like, and they're moving. Like, it just seems weird to me, the events of how he's just like, bang, bang, chase that animal. Let's
bang,
go.
bang, 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 bang. So after that, and that's apparently not weirded them out enough. They run
quick,
back.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I wonder if you were going to mention. I forgot about this part.
He comes back, and the hunk of flesh that had flown off of this is still there. But instead of being like, typically, like if a hunk of flesh got cut off of you, right? It's gonna stay like fresh for a little while.
Hey, real quick, Micah. Sorry to interrupt you, but can you? It looks like your camera might be a little blurry. There it goes. It focused up. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened there. I just wanted to let you know so it wasn't blurry for whoever. If anybody watches on YouTube, you're good, though. You're perfect there. I'll let you know if it happens again. I'm sorry.
So he comes back to this hunk of flesh, and apparently it smelled, it looked rotten and even smelled rotten, which is kind of clearly odd.
That's very odd.
So yeah, I mean, personally, I think at that point I'd have been like, we're going to find a new homestead.
Well, I mean, but also think about this. What is the loan that he's got on this place? What investment does he have? He might have sold the other property. I totally agree with you, but I also at the same time know how stubborn we as human beings are. Especially, like, I mean, he's a rancher, bro. Like, farmers are tough. So, I don't know. Like, one part of me, I definitely, because I had the same thought too originally. I was like, I would have been out of there. But then another part of me is kind of like, I wonder if, like, he was just like, it was the first event. It's the first day. I'm moving, man.
You just shot this animal 5 times. It didn't have a speck of blood.
Maybe I missed. Oh, that's right. There's a piece of rotting flesh. I forgot about that part. Oh, my goodness.
Pardon me.
Yeah, Mikey decided this was a great time to have food while we're shooting up. I'm just kidding.
Girl Scout cookies. I can't resist.
Ooh.
So, apparently it kind of lays low for a little while at this point. Not a whole lot happens for the first few months that they lived there, except for the wife.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Gwen apparently thought that she was going insane, so she didn't really talk about it.
That's hilarious that she's just like, I'm going crazy. I'm just going to deal with it myself.
I mean, I probably would think so too.
He's not going to talk about it.
But apparently she would have weird stuff like she would come home from shopping, she'd put groceries away, she would leave the room, and she'd come back, and all the groceries were back in the bags. I feel like that's one of those things where, like, maybe you do think that that's like you losing your mind, like, maybe you got some dementia or something, and you thought you put the groceries away, but you actually didn't.
Listen, all I can say about that is if there's a ghost who was like, I can totally mess with people, right? But I don't possess the bodies, no. I'll let them unload whatever they're doing, and then when they walk away, I put it all back instantaneously, and then they freak out and think they're going crazy.
I mean, it's pretty effective, I would think.
That's the best thing ever.
It was stuff like that. She would go take a shower, the towel, hairbrushes, toothbrushes, that kind of stuff would just, like, disappear and then would show up in a random location inside the house later.
Yeah. You guys got to
I feel like that's not that weird. I don't, because especially when I was actually, it didn't specify how old the children were. So I was like, my kids, 9. They can make stuff disappear. Like,
that's true. I know the son was a teenager and the daughter was 9 when they moved on the property. So they're not like little itty bitty kids. I mean,
yeah, no, they're probably past the point of hiding your crap.
Excuse me. Sorry, go ahead.
And then apparently, a few months after, when it actually like started ramping up, was Terry had a post digger, which I don't know if anybody knows what a post digger looks like, but it's basically like 2 shovels that you pull apart and it picks up the dirt, and that way you can pull it out of a small hole. You don't gotta dig a huge hole. Mm-hmm. Apparently, this is a pretty severe post hole digger because he said it weighs 70 pounds.
Yeah,
like
well,
the postal diggers I've ever dealt with is like, it weighs
break.
like maybe 5 pounds.
They all break. That's why you have to go back up. That's why nobody owns one. Do you meet the average Joe who owns a post digger? No, because he bought one once, it broke on him, and he's like, I'm never buying that piece of crap again.
Or because you don't really have to dig a hole for a post very often.
Yeah, 70 pounds is...
70 pounds is a lot.
Yeah,
so
a little bit of weight.
Apparently, this happens. They can't find the post hole digger. And I guess it's a while after this that they actually find it, like three weeks or something like that, where they find the 70-pound post digger in a 70-foot tree, 70 feet in the air.
Dude, I'm sorry. Whatever.
So,
okay, we gotta get your thoughts on some of this stuff that's taking place, Mike. Just a little bit. I think you're doing a great job sharing it. But for those of that listen to the show, if you haven't, if you're just joining because you saw the name and you're just checking us out the first time, Micah is what we would call a true critical thinker. He is definitely operating more in the realms of this is a freaking joke right now, but I'm gonna share the story with you. I feel like, am I wrong in saying that?
I think there might be. I don't know. It gets worse. So
yeah.
Then there's been some during this he's seen what he thought was headlights on his property, which he thought the first or second time.
Sorry, real quick. I'm so sorry. Before we get to that story, the only thing I just wanted to mention, because I just remembered about it when you were saying not too much else had happened. There were a few other things, nothing major, but just so you guys can keep an idea of that, like there were things going on the whole time, just not significant as some of the stories we're going to share tonight, where like what was taking place. But from the time they moved in, so the wolf thing, the wife, and all this weird crap, she thinks she's going crazy. He was also finding what they call like large circular impressions in their pastures. So like literally like crop signs, like crop circles basically. But they said that these ones were a little different. It was like one was formed, it was like a 30-foot triangle. So triangles and circles were found. But the one was really deep. Like it said it was like 2 feet into the ground, like too deep, 2 feet down, that's significant. I'm sorry, in circumference, but I'm just saying there were other things going on. It wasn't like it was just the wolf, the wife thinking she's going crazy, and then just like this one thing. It almost, from what I heard from Terry the one time when he was talking, it sounded like he was literally saying it was like got to be daily or at least weekly, where they were seeing weird crap like lights and stuff. So I don't want you to get the impression of like it was just this instance, and then fast forward like 4 months and only 2 things have happened. Like there's definitely weird stuff going on. We don't have the time to share it, like Micah brought up.
Yeah,
it would bore you to death.
Yeah, if we just were like verbatim.
Yeah.
Da-da-da-da.
Terry then dropped his pants and sat on the toilet, only to discover, darn, no toilet paper.
Well, the coronavirus hadn't hit yet, so
yeah,
I don't know why he's out of toilet paper.
I don't know. Darn it, Gwen, buy some toilet paper, Jesus.
But apparently he had noticed some what he thought were headlights and somebody just making a wrong turn or something. He kind of blew it off.
Oh, I
So he saw it a few extra times, and then he started heading towards those lights. Apparently those lights started moving away from him, and when he got about 100 yards, I believe, away from them, they just kind of like eased up off the ground and just floated and disappeared. And then apparently this happened a lot after this with the light situation, where there would be a couple what looked like headlights that would be going around the property.
Dealing with that particular incident, because some might say, well, all right, these stories you guys are presenting or whatever right now, but you're only giving their accounts. There was, on that particular incident, his nephew was with them. I guess he was a bit of a sissy or something, or city boy. And then parents were like, you need to toughen this one up. Sent him out there, and he was with them when this happened. I guess he was like deathly afraid of the dark too. So like when this happened, it freaked him out so bad. He went like home and never returned to the property. Like his parents were like, he's never coming back. So just to say, because I know that's the point we're gonna bring up later, that it was mainly a lot of their accounts. There were, in this particular instance, there was somebody separate from just Terry himself, because Terry, as we're going to talk about a lot, seems to have a lot of these particular, I don't know what you would even call them. What do we call it? Anomalies? It is
his property. So
it is his property, to be fair.
And then they so now we're getting into more of like a personal thing to him. So he ended up with a cow that was missing for 24 hours. So he was trying to track this cow down. And he came across some like prints from the cow that appeared to be running. Like it looked like the cow was running from something.
Yeah.
But there was no other tracks, so he couldn't see anything that it was actually running from. And it was winter at this time. I'll add that as well.
Yeah.
So it was snow tracks. So it was very easy to see. And also, I'm gonna say apparently a lot because
like you remember that kid with the roller coaster? Well, apparently I have never been on a roller coaster, and Grandpa lets me play the controller after the Powerball. You don't know? No. You don't remember that kid, the little redheaded kid? And he was like literally wearing like a man-length shirt. All right, we're gonna post this in the Facebook group. If you're not part of the Facebook group, get on there because now you're gonna know about apparently. This is like a throwback to 2005, 6. Trending video. Anyway, I'm sorry. Yes, apparently. So apparently, what were you talking about there, Micah? With the
this happened, and as he was tracking these prints, he came out to like an open, pastured area, and again, the tracks just stopped. No cow, no nothing. There's no other tracks. They just stopped.
Sort of
and
like
this
the wolf
happened.
incident, right?
This happened 4 times.
Yeah,
4 times.
Yeah.
So that's pretty significant. I would say, provided you believe any of this. So then there was another incident shortly after the first cow went missing, I believe. Where there was a black mass, which he described as looking like an F-117 Black Hawk or Nighthawk or something like that. It
was literally like the Avengers showed up in their.
It's basically like a stealth bomber. So if you look up F-117 or stealth bomber or something like that, you'll get the picture of what he's describing it as. And it had different colored lights out of it. There was like 4 different colors, I think, involved in it. But it was not making any noise either. And it was only about 20 feet off the ground. And he observed this for 15 minutes or so. I believe he was out looking for lights, and every time he would spot lights, they would just kind of, go away. You wouldn't be able to get very close to them. And this one wasn't super far away, and it just like showed up randomly. He decided to hunker down, and according to him, he watched this for 15 minutes. It was still cold outside, and when he moved, his elbow cracked. And
been there, sir. Been there.
Said that that you probably wouldn't have heard it from more than about 6 feet away, but it sounded thunderous to him.
Well, you know what it is when you're tracking something, man. Like even if you're hunting, you know what I'm saying. When you're in that moment, and you're like locked in on your target.
Little tiny noises sound.
You can hear the
incredibly
raindrops.
Loud.
Like you can feel it. Like anybody who's really been in the woods hunting something, or just doing anything you're intent on, you'll feel your heart start to beat. Like you can hear your blood. You know what I mean? Like you can hear everything in your body.
Feel it.
You become so much more
blood
connected.
Through you. But yeah, as soon as his elbow cracked and it made that little bit of noise, apparently the lights turned off and this thing immediately faced him and just like directly stared at him It didn't have eyeballs, so I don't know. It wasn't staring at him, but it was facing him for a short period of time, and then it left.
One other important thing I want to add real quick.
Did I mention that the lights turned off when his elbow cracked?
No, but they did.
Lights
yeah,
just
just kind of basically was like
Phew!
knew that he was there all of a sudden. But real quick too to add, when you were mentioning about the that large craft that looked like the F-16 or 17, I can't remember what you compared it to.
F117.
My bad with the serial numbers, bro. I'm so sorry, or whatever it's called.
It's not a serial.
That's what it's called, man. Get the name right. Anyways, one notable thing about that. Again, like you're talking about with the cows disappearing because it happened in the same timeline being the winter, he did say if it had not been the wintertime, he doesn't even think he would have seen it because, according to him, the only reason he could see it was because of the snow.
It's
like
a silhouette.
Yeah.
In the snow.
So it was like cloaking device, kind of. And he even mentioned this too with the cattle that were going missing, the 4 different cows. He started observing them a little bit closely. The ones, because he did start finding ones that had died too, besides the 4 that just completely vanished. There were some that started dying along the way.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that.
Oh, we are? Okay, all right, I just want to make sure.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I
mixed up my time. I'm too excited. I'm sorry. I'm excited. Sorry.
It's actually my very next story.
Oh, perfect.
So that was at the end of 1994, and then it comes to 95.
Yes.
So,
which is a busy year. 94 is the year Micah was born, so.
Yeah.
Coincidence?
In
Skinwalker?
December,
huh?
so yeah. It probably came from there.
That ship could have been delivering you, bro. For all we know. It was like...
So more cattle started disappearing, but then they started finding them.
Yes, this is where they started finding them.
And they would have like huge chunks of like flesh, basically like surgically removed from them. Is kind of okay. So it wasn't surgically removed. It was basically like precise. It didn't look
Precision.
like an animal had.
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, anybody you've seen an animal
apart.
tear to right. Yeah, it wasn't a natural cause. We'll put it that way.
Now the one that for me is like, well, that's
this is the one you're going to talk about. Yeah,
these cows did not have blood.
That's okay. So that's the part where
there was no blood.
Everything. Out of everything we're going to talk about,
you got these huge old gouges and no blood.
And he talked about how like they had the pinholes in their eyes, like to the brain. He started examining them a little more closely along the way, and so like only the right eye had like a pinhole all the way into the brain. I don't know if it talked about it in the link that I had sent to you.
No, he didn't.
But you're absolutely on the money with the whole being no blood, because anybody who's ever had to butcher anything, process your own animal, there is blood, and with a cow, there is a lot of blood. So to me, that out of all of them, and I'm sure, okay, let's stop there for a second, because I'm sure somebody would be like, all right, let's talk about the possibilities here. What are the possible ways that you and I, as human beings, if we just wanted to screw with somebody and kill a cow, how would we do it so that there is no blood? Like, is there a way that you can think of? Because I kind of was thinking about this today a little bit, leading up to this.
I mean, I guess you could drain the cow of blood and then wash it up so it appears that there's no blood, but like
washing up,
that's a process. Yeah. That's a process.
I could see I was thinking too, like if you cut the jugular or something that would allow it to just bleed out. Like I remember watching a hunting video years ago. They were hunting, was it moose? I just tried to say moose and elk at the same time and it came out milk. Anyways, when they were hunting these elk, he would shoot it with the freaking .22, and he would do it like because he said it would make a pinhole, and the thing would not react that much or run away, and would just basically sit down and go to sleep because it would bleed out there. I'm just wondering, but again, that's a lot of blood, so I don't know how you could. You'd have to have like a little vacuum, like tube. Like I'm getting way out there with it, but like stick a tube into the artery somehow, and it's just literally like, sucker 3000 magic blood sucker there, and it's just like just draining it down. Or vampires. Okay, so
I would say if you're gonna take any of this stuff in this story serious at all, vampires
I'm taking it
is not.
Dude, I am taking this with the utmost seriousness at this moment in time, I'll have you know. So thank you very much. I just want to put that out there. I'm just kidding. We're going to talk about all that afterwards. We're going to just share the stories with you.
We can give our
real
our
quick though.
about.
I don't remember with the cow pieces being cut off. Were they laid out on the ground? What was like? Did it give you more detail on that?
I think it just said that they were just chunks missing that looked like they had been cut out with something precise. That it was did not appear to have been done by an animal.
Okay. All right.
Then there was also what they described as an invisible creature. Like an invisible giant creature.
You guys, this has got to be so hard for my guy. I love it. All right. I'm gonna just put it out there, guys. It's invisible.
Okay, but think about this. Think about this. Think about it. We're like, hey, we know that there is a giant invisible creature out here, guys.
The
We've
predator
seen it.
himself
I've
lives on
seen
the property.
So apparently they know that this giant invisible creature exists because like it would move through like the herd and cows would like move out of its way.
They did talk about that.
And that there would be water displaced from this thing. So like if it was standing in water, there would be like an empty, like a hole in the water basically. And then there was also a smaller creature with predator-like cloaking. That it looked like if you've ever watched the Predator, like the movie Predator, he's got like a cloaking device that kind of makes him invisible, but if he moves, you can clearly see him.
Yeah.
I mean, not like clearly, but it's basically like a you see what's like behind him kind of thing, but as it moves, you can see the disturbance in the space. So that's what it described the smaller creature as, is that it was a predator-like cloaking. Then there were this might be the part that you were talking about with the dirt.
What's that? The dirt.
There being what was described as cookie cutter like gouges.
Yeah.
In his land with no dirt around it.
Gone this dirt.
Yeah, it's just like, and it specifically said like hundreds of pounds of soil. So I'm assuming these aren't like massive holes, but significant.
But real quick then, too, and I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you. I apologize, guys.
I'm kind of just like, chip.
So, are we halfway through what you have to cover? Because I don't know. That's the other thing, too.
Not quite.
Not quite? Okay, we're almost we're doing good. Then I can interject this really quick. This is, okay, so you might be asking yourself right now, okay, guys, what the French toast are you talking about? Because right now you're all over the place as far as, like, we're talking about a wolf. Now we're talking about cow mutilations or disappearances, lights. Are you talking about aliens? Are you talking about, like, interdimensional beings? Are you talking about ghosts messing with her, just her house, basically? And the answer is yes. Yes, we are. We are talking about all those things. But, not to disappoint you, I also want to mention a Men in Black incident. Because why the heck not? This actually took place, I'm sorry, Mike, I should have told it back when I interrupted you the first time about the nephew being on the land and all that. But at one point, Terry left the property. I don't know if you had this written down or not, to do business out of town. He was selling some cattle. No. So he's selling some cattle. His wife is home alone for whatever reason. I don't know if the kids are out with the friends or whatever. And his wife, who thinks she's going crazy, looks outside, and it says she could see what looked to be like an RV, similar to what you were talking about, the RV lights thing or whatever that went up in the air, a RV spacecraft. And she could see in this craft a being that seemed to be relatively tall, like Men in Black, wore knee-high boots because, well, it's a farm, so you want to wear knee-high boots. And then he also had a visor on, like a poker dealer visor, which is, to me, classic Men in Black, because they don't understand like how humans look. Like they draw on eyebrows and lipstick and stuff. Like they don't really get us, I guess. And apparently he was doing paperwork inside of a desk, or at a desk inside of this craft. I don't. I just wanted to put that out there.
That's like the van from Scooby-Doo, right?
This literally the mystery machine. He's just like, well, here's the family. We're gonna. This reminds me of a little bit. I don't know if you remember this movie, Cabin in the Woods. Did you ever see it? God awful horror film.
I think so. Is
like
that
they
the
go
one
to
where
this
it's like
cabin.
a government experiment on people, and they like
sort of. Channing
basically-
Tatum's in it from like way back in the day. I don't know if you remember it.
Maybe
But
it's not the one I'm thinking.
They're like.
Of.
So the old tales of how like we used to sacrifice a virgin to like keep the gods appeased.
Oh yeah,
that's totally true.
No,
So,
that is the movie. Yeah,
you've seen it, so that's what I was thinking of when she was telling this. Because I'm like picturing this guy's like, all right, here's our next family. Like we're gonna torture him. This he's just doing the paperwork. Because there seems to be a lot of incidents where what they're seeing can only be seen on their property, and a lot of like you're talking about the cloaking devices and holograms.
Well,
where they basically said
that's not necessarily true according to.
Oh, we'll jump back in. I just wanted to get that story in there because if you were thinking aliens, if you were thinking interdimensional beings, if you were thinking ghosts, also throw in Men in Black. So carry on.
Well, you can throw a few
evidence.
extra in there. So they have UFOs, like actual like alien beings. Poltergeists, a Bigfoot figure.
Yes, Bigfoot. I'm sorry, Bigfoot.
Yeah, and then apparently
ever seems
lights were like every night. They saw lights every night.
Nightly. To the point where they just watched them, right?
Yeah.
They were like, let's just go look at the lights.
A black, featureless humanoid.
Yeah. Just keep adding it.
That would show up, and it started off like a little ways away, and then I guess it crept closer, and it got into like where it was looking into the windows, and then it even got to the point where it was coming into the house and standing at the end of people's beds.
No way, I missed this. What the French toast?
Yeah.
Dude, okay, here's the thing. Do whatever weird crap you want to do, out there on the farm. Maybe you want to screw with my groceries, whatever. But you start, like, creeping up. This happened to me the other night. I woke up. You ever catch yourself, like...
You had a black, featureless creature standing at the foot of your bed?
No, but I'm saying, like, you ever catch yourself where you fall asleep, and then you wake up, but you didn't realize you'd fallen asleep, so, like, you almost wake up like a... I don't know how to explain it, but you, like, jolt awake. And that's what happened, and I looked at my doorway, and our door's always closed, but it was cracked open, and for a second I was like, what the French toast? What is that thing? And, but anyways, I forgot I got up to use the bathroom, and I forgot to close the door. But there was a moment where, like, I almost didn't want to look at the end of my bed. You know what I mean? Like, that would freak me out. I'm just saying. You're going to tell me you wake up and that wouldn't freak you out?
If something was standing at the end of my bed, heck yeah, it would.
Your toddler stands at the end of their bed and wakes you up in the middle of the night, you freak out. You almost drop kick him in the face. Don't you ever wake me up like that?
But apparently there was also noises like machinery coming from the ground.
Underneath. Dude, this is totally Cabin in the Woods. That was them bringing the different monsters up and down. Oh my god.
In the ground and voices in the sky. So clearly they've been doing too many lines.
Terry's like, listen, I ranch hard, real hard. You know what I'm saying?
Then it gets real. It gets real here. You mentioned interdimensional, right? Let's talk about interdimensional.
Real quick, then, before we hit the interdimensional, I just want to let one last story on the cow stuff. Do you have any more to mention about the cows too much, or with his son in particular, or no? Okay. So, out of all the cow stuff we talked about, you might be saying, all right, with the draining of blood stuff and people possibly being involved in that, because we do know instances where there are cults and different events, or what's the word I'm looking for, Mike? Not like habits, but like they're traditions, I guess, whatever you want to call it, cults of draining blood out of the cows. I guess there are people that do this, but the one that stuck out to me was, again, the no blood thing, and then this one particular story where, because you could say, well, maybe given enough time, anything could happen, right? Like maybe you figured something out. But there was one incident where his son was on the pasture dealing with what he referred to as one of their gentle bulls, and leaves, like literally, I don't know if you watch or what he had driving a truck probably or something, but he goes to the other side. Anybody who's ranched or farmed, to get an idea, in case you haven't, usually you break all your cattle up in different groups, right? You get your bull, one, or if you have several bulls, they're broken up in different groups, and cattle. Point being, he went to check on some other cattle. Literally what he compared to 5 to 7 minutes. And then he had to come back. In that 5 to 7 minutes, upon his return, the cow was dead. Not only was it dead, this is the part that freaks me out, and I'm like, I'm not even going to make a dirty joke here. I'm just going to tell you what happened. So upon his return, the Angus that had been eating peacefully, he found it dead. Not only was it dead, it cored out a 6-inch hole in its anus. I feel this. Sorry, the cow's rectum had been cored out with a 6-inch wide hole that was 8 inches deep, and that puzzles me. And I mean, if they are making this stuff up, I dare you to walk. Well, I guess if you killed the cow yourself, let's just say the Shermans are faking all this. I guess if you killed the cow yourself, you could go up and do that. But according to them, this was the only signs of damage or like injury to the cow. You know what I mean? It wasn't mutilated. It was just dead, and it had a 6-inch diameter, cored out 8 inches deep into the cow's rectum. That seems suspicious.
That seems like it probably wouldn't kill it.
That's what I'm. Well, yeah, no, I agreed. Not that fast, at least either. I'm sure infection or something would happen, but like, I just wanted to share that. To like, have you noticed? And you guys will probably start to notice as we're sharing the stories that nothing seems to be repeating itself outside of the lights. Seeing lights and similarities of lights, that seems to be like the only recurring running theme. Everything else is just like, what the French toast? Like, just when they think they've kind of got something figured out, a cow's rectum gets pulled out in 6-inch diameters, 8 inches deep, and it's dead. Interdimensional beings getting a little frisky. All right, continue.
With going to the interdimensional stuff. So apparently he was out at night, and the husband Terry.
Yeah, because he's total BA. This guy apparently started getting pissed about this activity. He's like, "You're
super pissed.
What, dude?"
I mean, he's lost several cows. Stuff. Like,
yeah, but
it did. I mean, it did say that he apparently was like basically every night he was like driving around his property trying
like
to catch
looking for
these
fight.
lights.
Like, how dare you? I swear to God, I wish you would.
So at
my
night,
30-06, my 357 right here. Oh my God,
these lights pop up, or this light pops up, and he thinks it's about a mile away, and he had apparently been cleaning his rifle. So he had I don't know who detaches a scope from a rifle.
I know it's true.
But apparently he had a high-powered scope with him that he decided to look at this thing through. And he described it as an opening.
Yeah, this is important because this is
it's like it's nighttime outside, right? So
keep that in mind. It's nighttime.
And when he looks at this, he can see blue sky on the other side.
Portals, bro.
He described it as a portal.
Ripping the fabric.
Apparently, this was the first time that it happened, and it happened multiple times after. And he also said that he witnessed crafts entering and leaving this portal.
Now, I do have to... This is the only part where, again, you guys that have listened to the show and know me at all, like, I'll entertain almost any idea, right? I'll talk about it. But I do have to say, because they were saying how he tried to get pictures, but they would kind of be blurry or not great, even though he did have some. He actually has videos, and I think you can look it up on... Oh, is it Jeremy Corbell did a special, The Hunt for the Skinwalker, I think? Something like that.
But that was also... It was based on...
but they did use some of the actual footage. But is what I'm saying. He did have some footage, but it basically was all nighttime and the lights.
Yeah.
So again, if he's using the high-powered scope, I could see why, especially cameras from the mid-90s, unless you get some fantastic camera. Like I go out and take a picture of the moon at night, even with the full moon. I'm like, well, it looks like crap on this. So, but yeah, I'm looking at the sky, and it's like huge. That's what I'm saying.
Nighttime pictures don't really work.
Give him the benefit of a doubt that he tried, but it's weird that if he could nightly be seeing this. Because does it mention he had like a stump that he would literally go sit on or something similar to that? Like he could literally be like,
I don't.
Oh, okay.
That, but
point being, yeah, he's nightly going to do this.
So apparently there was also this didn't happen nearly as often as like the white lights and that kind of stuff. There was also some tennis ball sized orange lights that would show up. And they would harass the livestock, like they would chase the cows around and crap.
Are these the ones that he would actually try and chase himself too? Didn't he have his dogs or something like that? An incident took place that way too.
Yes. And then there were some bigger ones that were blue, and apparently these were the most feared thing that happened on this farm.
Blue balls was the most
blue balls. Is the most feared thing.
Well, blue balls
and
are
it just and it had according to him it had a way to instill fear among people that were close to it, where you would just it would get like a huge amount of anxiety about it, and
so much anxiety.
You would build up this immense amount of fear,
really building it up.
And apparently there was going with the dogs. I don't recall if it said it was a blue light or an orange. I would think it was the blue.
I think it was the blue light. One. Yeah, because that was the one that made him afraid, and that's why he had his dogs, because it didn't seem to. The dogs could see it, so dogs could definitely identify something or sense the presence of something, but they didn't seem to be as fearful about it as a human.
Yeah,
this is the only thing that scared Terry, apparently, because Terry was a Rambo, knife in his mouth, like, let's go, boys, mother trucker.
Except for those blue lights. I don't want those blue balls. Blue balls is too much.
Sorry, go ahead.
So apparently one of these lights showed up, and he had 3 dogs, and they all went and chased it. And it was in some woods, and he heard 3 like painful yelps, like like sad. If you step on your dog,
we all know the sound of a painful yelp,
tail or something, like a yelp.
That's so bad.
So there was 3 painful yelps, and then nothing. There was silence, no barking, nothing like that.
I should get my camera everywhere. So I'll admit that is the creepiest thing ever. Like, we see it in movies and it's kind of creepy where they like set something out and then you hear nothing, you hear something happen and there's no sound. Could you imagine actually being in the dark on this freaking weird property that you now own, and you set 3 big dogs loose and then yelps?
Let me explain.
Keep going. I'm sorry.
If this happened on property that I lived on, and what they find next, no way
there more to this?
In heck I would remain on that property.
Brimstone and fire.
So he was too.
Won't drive me from this property.
He was too scared to go out there that night.
I don't blame him. For these dogs. That's freaking weird. That's a freaking weird, scary thing to have happen.
Yeah. So they didn't see the dogs. The dogs didn't come back. Apparently, the next morning he went out with his. I don't know if it was both of his kids or what all, but at least his son went with him, and they couldn't find the dogs.
Let's go find the puppies.
And eventually, they did find the dogs, or at least what was left of the dogs. And there was 3 what it described as cauterized piles of flesh.
Cauterized? Oh, cauterized. Like
cauterized,
burned. So like burnt?
Burning clothes. Yeah, like you cauterize a wound. 3 cauterized piles of flesh that were smoldering.
Well, what about the... So wait, it was just flesh? Like nothing else? No bones?
That's what it described it as.
What the French toast?
So that was what they found left of their dogs. And apparently
if I was Billy,
that
I'd have
was
been like, Dad, that's pretty close to brimstone and fire. Like, that's like the happy gelatin version.
apparently that was the last straw for the Shermans, and they decided to try.
Well, he
to
reached
get
out,
the
right?
heck out.
He started writing the papers.
He reached out to some of the local news stations and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
which didn't really go anywhere there.
No kidding. Man, it's weird. I've been getting really high out in my property at night, and
Yeah, so they ended up losing a total of 14
sad.
different cattle.
in what,
Over the
basically
course
2
of
years,
it was like
give or take. That's what I'm thinking. 94 to 90.
I think
94 to 96.
September
2 years.
96, I believe.
I think that sounds right for the
So yeah, they weren't there super long. They lost 14 cows. They were all sleeping in the same room because they were fearful of the things coming into their house.
Now
I guess
that
Gwen
should
had
say
lost
something
her
right
job, and so they were on the verge of bankruptcy.
This
they
is rough,
they decided
though.
they had to.
Like, I know we're laughing. I'm laughing about this tonight, but like,
I mean, if
actually put yourself in
it's
that
100% legitimate,
situation,
yeah,
dude.
I
This
feel
is messed up.
super bad for you. If
And like,
it's legitimate.
nobody believes you. Nobody could believe it. When you're like, I swear to God, I looked through my scope. It was nighttime, but not on the other side. There was like a blue sky on the other side. Then I popped the rest of my mushrooms, and then I'm sorry. I'm not
so
making fun of him, but I feel
when
like
he
that's how
talked to-
people would have addressed him. Is how I feel personally.
He talked to some of those local newspapers and that kind of stuff, and apparently it got out to a man named Robert Bigelow.
Holla, holla, Robert
Bigelow. I think it's
Yes,
Bigelow.
It is Robert Bigelow.
Who is a billionaire, and he
He got
founded
some money.
he founded a group that is known as NIDS, which stands for
Not
the
to be
National
mistaken for
Institute for
SIDS.
Discovery Science. And so basically their job is to study things that are very strange. The strangest things. That's their job. So he funded it, and he has he put together like a investigation team, and he offered to purchase the ranch from the Shermans, and he ended up doing that in July of '96, and that is when the Shermans actually moved out. So I guess when they did that, I guess Terry didn't want to because he was upset
Yeah,
that he was being
pissed.
pushed off his land by what, and I guess he believed that it was some type of military.
I was just going to
kinda
share
thing.
that story really quick. There was one other thing that happened, and it seems to be like a not so talked about thing ever. It's like kind of one of those because there's so many instances, guys. There's so much crap. We'll post some links to this, and you guys can listen to the story yourself or read up on it. There is so much to this, okay? But there was something he kept noticing on the property. It was like a 4-wheel drive white vehicle of some sort, and every time he noticed this thing, there was a guy in it, and he noticed that it always had different license plates every time. And he did manage to get a photo of the guy at one point in time, and from his own research determined that he felt it was somebody working for the Air Force. Again, we're left with he determines. I don't know how many rails this man was putting up, but I'm just kidding. That's the part that sucks for him. It's like, even if he was hitting the hammer on the nail there, or hammer on the head, I don't know. It's hard.
They after the NIDS bought the property from them, Terry offered to remain on the property as a ranch manager, which was accepted. So he was still going to the property on a regular basis, but his family was living somewhere else. And his wife, because that concludes my first half of this story. His wife came back with him on a few different occasions to help out with different things. But his job there was to take care of the livestock that they still had on the property, which apparently Nids also purchased some of the cattle from him as
it's like
bait for as bait for whatever things were going on. And then he also had some of his own cattle there, I guess, for the same purpose. I don't know why I personally wouldn't be like, you know what? I'm going to give you some of my cattle, so in case some cattle get eaten, it could cost me some money.
I'm sure it was funded by
But
Robert Bigelow.
No, I said it was his own cattle.
Oh, it was? Oh, well, maybe he just wanted answers,
or just like... They ended up moving. Nids actually moved to the property in September 1996.
Yeah, and a little bit of. Sorry, go ahead.
They did end up staying there for a decade.
I didn't know if you were going to give any background on Nids at all. I didn't know if you were. If you wanted to give
I can tell you
it was synopsis of them.
Made up of 25 members.
Yep.
But that included security, which were like ex-military. It was a physicist under the name of Eric Davis. Biochemist. His name was.
I know which name.
Kelleher.
The point is I just want you to know if you're one of those people who's all about the details of the debunking, that's totally fine. We're just sharing information. But the point being, Nids was not Nids was not like if Mike and I threw a team of investigators together.
No,
go look at something. You know what I mean?
According to the story, Nids was made up of specifically skeptical, high, qualified scientists that were going to be skeptical over the situation rather than people that already believe in this stuff and are just going to be like, oh well, that's kind
of like what Dr. J. Allen Hynek was. He wanted to give a reasonable, and he believed that everything had a reasonable explanation, a scientific answer to it, if we looked hard enough and we understood it. And that's what Robert Bigelow targeted with the people he brought on this team was, listen, I don't want the guy who's like, he wouldn't hire me, right? He would not hire William for this job for many reasons, but one of the main ones being that I kind of sit around and talk about this guy, I'm like, dude, time, space, travel, rips and holes, Bigfoot. Let's go. He'd probably be like, yeah, it's nice having you. Good luck with your career. So anyways, Nids.
But yeah, that pretty much, that concludes the first half of it. I've got quite a bit still to go after
Robert Bigelow is such an interesting guy, too. I have to admit.
But I do think we probably should split this into two.
Yeah, how long have we been going?
If we it's close to an hour.
Are we close to an hour?
Half-ish.
Oh, well then let's split it. All right, guys, buckle up, mother truckers.
It might not be an hour and a half. It might be.
That's okay.
Hour,
I told Christina probably up around 8:20 anyway, so we can wrap this up. And
I was gonna say you're late at this point.
Well, we are
8:30.
Come on. So look, if I ever
should
tell
probably
you I'm
just be honest
I'm
with
just
her and just tell her like realistic times.
If we get started at
instead of being like, "Hey, I'm gonna be up there at 8:15," but realistically 9:30. Yeah. That would probably be better.
She already automatically does that now. Like, if I say 8:20, she's like. But anyways, so let's wrap this up then. Let's hit the pause button. I don't know if you guys are curious or not, but let's go back, maybe listen to the episode again. Chew over what you just heard, and let's mull it over. And now we're gonna go into the second part of this, which is now we're bringing in a very a whole scientific team, or more than that. But these guys were made up from, like you're saying, astrophysicists. We had guys that were what are those called?
Expert veterinarians. Just
I thought one of them was a physicist, and then there was like a veterinarian expert. Point being, he brought in like 25 different people from all different areas of expertise. Some of that including security and whatever else. But yeah, we definitely got some more to share with you guys. And if this is your first time digging into the Skinwalker Ranch stuff, trust me, I know that was a lot to take in, but it does not get any less weird in some ways than that. And we'll be back next week, I guess, and we'll continue to knock that out. Good job, Micah. Good job. Well done, sir. Well done.
Thanks. I just kind of wanted to get through the points.
He's like, I wanted to get through this bull crap that they were spewing, and I just want to...
So my honest opinion is,
yeah, let's give a little regurgitation on at least what we just talked about.
So if we're going over, like, if you want to mull over some of this stuff, right?
The big wolf.
And you're like, okay, so you got a giant wolf. Okay, that's possible, right? You could probably end up with like some weird genetic morph bull crap and end up with a wolf that.
Sure.
Okay, so it's 3 times the size of a normal dog.
Possible, right? We have genetic freaks walking around that are people, so
Sure. It's possible. It's possible.
Yeah, it's possible.
An animal that doesn't bleed.
Highly
not
unlikely.
So possible.
Usually,
not so possible.
I'm not even going to go with plausible. I'm just going to say highly unlikely.
So if this animal has flesh that's just like it's popping off of it when you shoot it, and then that flesh rots right there, and it doesn't bleed, and it disappears, like, I don't know. It's
almost... That one story alone, and then how they tracked it, and how it was going up to the stream, and it was leaving like literally 1 to 2 inch, or I think it was 2-inch footprints. Like, it was a heavy creature, right?
Oh, that was no, maybe that's the second part. No, that's the second part. Never mind.
Okay,
no, we're talking about footprints.
Yeah, with the wolf. They track it. Him and his son track it to the creek there. Hey, you went a little blurry again there, Micah. You back up. Oh, there we go. Perfect. So when they went, tracking this thing, where they could kind of see it, right? Like they said, they felt like it was toying with them, or it was like just out of their point of view, and like it would, they were seeing it.
They could see it off and on as
right.
They were, yeah.
And then it literally in an open, like, how like anybody's ever seen a good stream, how there's like the water and there's the rocks and all that stuff, and there's like the sand. It disappeared into that basically. Now, let's get super critical on it. Let's just say we're trying to think about this in a super logical manner. Is it possible that this creature was smart enough to walk in the water and lose them?
No, there was footprints in the middle of a field, and it stopped.
And then it stops and just disappears, just like with his cattle that went missing.
Also, even if the footprints didn't stop in the middle of the field, and even if this animal was smart enough to walk down a stream, how is this animal evolved enough to not bleed when shot?
Well, I think it's interdimensional, and I think that piece of flesh that fell off somehow rotted away here because it wasn't meant to be part of the space-time continuum. And
see, that would actually if alternate dimensions and that kind of stuff is a thing, that actually makes sense. Like you could be like, hey, well, portal just opened. And then the creature went through the portal, right? That makes sense.
Which could be like, that's right.
What about the cows? Did a portal just open and the cows just willingly went through the portal? Because there was no other tracks, and that wolf left tracks. So
now I did say with the one cow too, where it vanished. He did say that he could see like fresh branches and leaves on the ground when he tracked the one at the end, where it like literally just was like swoosh, and he felt that it went like in the air, and branches and leaves fell to the ground, so he felt like it went up. I don't even know where to like operate on this, because there's so much. There's like, well, there's Men in Black, there's a dire wolf that's invincible, bulletproof, and like, I just don't even know.
Don't forget. I don't have any direct stories for Poltergeist, but it did specifically mention. So I think, like, I don't know the actual definition of poltergeist, so the black featureless figure could be the poltergeist that they're referring to, since it's a creature that's like, just keeps showing up and won't leave them alone. You went a little blurry again. Sorry. God damn it.
It's just when you lean close and with your little forehead, it's still blurry. There you go. Touch it with your hand. Put your hand up. And then...
Stuck to the hand.
Like you do with a baby, when they're going cross-eyed, and you're like, oh, Lord, no, please don't go cross-eyed. Terrible. Perfect. I'm just kidding. Good. You're perfect. Yeah, it could be the poltergeist, like you were saying, that they
but yeah,
dealt with.
I mean, it specifically mentioned that, and it also mentioned a Bigfoot creature A creature that looked like a
Wait,
Bigfoot.
wait,
I don't know
wait.
what a Bigfoot
So
looks like, but
maybe we can't talk about it yet because it might be part 2. We don't want to ruin it. But was that in the first part of your notes or the second part?
that's the first part.
Wait, we missed that. How did I miss my Bigfoot? What?
No, I mentioned
Wait a
it,
second.
and you reacted to it.
I
But
well, I
it
remember
didn't
you.
specifically
No, I remember
mention.
you.
There was no specific story in what I did.
The knowledge
or
that you
what
had
I
on it. Okay,
researched.
I'm gonna look at that. I'm gonna go back and check some of my
About-
research on the Bigfoot
Yeah,
part.
there was nothing about specifically about Bigfoot, but they mentioned it. They said that they had mentioned that they had saw a creature that resembled Bigfoot.
That's the, honest to God, this is the only thing I can think. We know that there are different, excuse me, what is the word I'm looking for? Realms in which we operate, right? Like we live in, are we considered to live in 2D or 3D? I mean, I always get this part mixed up. We're technically, we
we're
think we're
3D.
3D, but we're really like 2D. I thought it was the actual answer. Point being, there are different levels to this. And
I think how you see stuff might be technically 2D.
well, 3D
but-
is depth, right? Depth and layer, which is like okay, like a road, like an overpass is still a road continuing without stopping. So in that moment, you're kind of like having flying cars that's operating in 3D because you're operating at multiple levels. Whereas a human being is usually only ever in their car or on their feet. You aren't really in 3D until you're like a pilot, because then you're dealing with like, I don't know. We're getting into realms of stuff that at least I don't understand. So, point being, there are realms, right, man? Like, hear me out, bro. So, what I'm saying is it possible that there's a different realm, or you believe in like angels and demons, or whatever you want to call it? Is it possible that they're dealing with some sort of like demonic rip in time, but like it doesn't seem to harm humans so far yet? It's only harmed animals, correct?
Yeah, I don't believe there's any humans that fell victim to anything.
I mean, if it is the military, like, if that, like, let's throw that up on the board as a possibility. If it is the military, like, to what point, though? Like, you melted the guy's dogs? Like, I don't know.
The idea would be, granted, I don't know why, if it was the government running experiments, I don't know why you would allow, I mean, granted, we think of these people as crazy, so I guess it wouldn't really matter, but, it would be like a test facility for whatever you're using, if you have something that can vaporize dogs,
True.
That's a pretty effective way
or
to
kill
wage
something
war.
with no blood. Yeah, I mean, I guess. I guess, but like, why this one guy, and why has this been going on for centuries?
Well, it's not just one. That's
where
what
this
that's what I'm saying,
story
like,
has been going on. So that's the other thing. That is one thing we got to give Terry. If it was just Terry who encountered this and his family, I would say bullcrap. I don't believe you. But as we will talk about in episode 2, there's much more to come, and the previous history that is given. And if I'm not mistaken, I do believe one other weird thing talking about like the what's the term for it? Like the material that's in the ground. There's like a certain type of metal and stuff that I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but because of all the bombs that have been detonated, you know what I mean, on the test sites out there, they said that over time it had blown onto the property. Excuse me, like radiation and stuff, so it had a higher count there. So, but still, that doesn't answer the question on like weird freaking bull crap. I don't know, man. You know what I'd love to look up? Have you ever heard of ley lines before? I should look this up. I'll look it up for episode 2.
I have.
So the idea is that there's these ley lines all across the world, and in these ley lines there are certain activities, and I can't remember the exact wording on it because I am but a grasshopper. But the crossing points of these in particular have extra heightened activity, and so for example, everybody knows this one being the freaking Bermuda Triangle being one of them. That's that falls in a ley line area, right? Where just weird activities taking place. The Michigan Triangle that we covered and talked about. Remember I said I was going to look that up, and I forgot to do that too. So I'm wondering if like somehow this falls in that path where there's like, I don't want to say bent reality, but like where us in another reality, because based on out of all this, do you think him looking through his scope and seeing daylight on the other side, that one I think bothers me the most in some ways, besides the other freaky stuff. That one, because that's a whole nother something. Something's there. Whether it's a wormhole to another part of just the Earth, and there's some weird little rabbit hole you'd fall into, or is that like literally another reality? That is weird. But it sounds like things are able to come through and not die unless pieces of them fall off. I don't know. Like the wolf, it rotted, but the wolf itself was like literally unfazed. I don't know. I guess we're going to figure this out, right? We're going to have all the answers in part 2, right, Micah?
Probably not.
Probably. Well, apparently my paperwork is telling me. Yes, it will. We'll see what happens.
Maybe
guys.
you have all the answers. What I have?
No,
I don't
listen,
have the answers.
You're doing a great job. I love... Guys, round of applause for Micah, please. I know you... This makes no sense at all, but just wherever you're at, just a little single, like the golf version, where the golfers are just like, yes.
Slow clap.
The slow clap. Could you... The slow clap. That's a sarcastic clap. I've never seen anybody do a slow clap once and felt good about it. Like, maybe if they did this, I would feel okay, even though it's like, haha, good job, make fun of you, except for golf etiquette. But yeah, slow clap is like, good job there, buddy. But anyways, guys, come back for part 2 of Skinwalker Ranch. This is This is going to be our first episode ever broken into 2 parts.
For sure, yeah.
But, I mean, it needs to be. I mean, really and truly, and we got probably a little bit more research to do to get you some current answers, because I don't want to give it away. You got to come back part 2. You're just going to have to come back. So, as always, guys, go ahead,
just
Mike.
Real quick, before we leave.
Blue balls.
I don't know.
Oh, wait, no. Real quick.
I don't know what it's like on the computer
Hashtag...
I'm recording on, but for the computer that I am talking to William on, he is very far behind, and I'm not sure if I am either.
Oh, really?
I'll
hide my mouth.
Our voices might not match up, but
yeah, that happens.
You know what?
Sometimes.
Sometimes crap happens.
Yeah,
someone's got Walmart
still figuring this
connection.
out. I don't know what the problem is. We'll figure it out. We probably just need to really overlay them video and all that separately. But anyways, hashtag Broners, blue balls, and all good stuff. And I guess, as always, stay curious and keep it weird.